Yeah, so this is one of the interesting things that the hybrid world that emerged out of the pandemic created a real acceleration for us in terms of the quality of the signal that we can get, because conversations in the hybrid enterprise today happen digitally, right? The water cooler is Slack or Teams or pick your, WebEx or Zoom chat, whatever it might be. That's now the water cooler, right? So what we're doing in our software is listening for, and you actually have the ability to go look for trends that are occurring. So like just like when you see on Twitter trending topics, we basically are doing that inside of the collaboration environment of the organization. Again, not down to an individual level, but at a macro level, we're looking for those signals that emerge naturally out of the social network that is your company. And we can even tell you how strongly topics are connected to each other and how strongly parts of the organization are connected to each other. And so you begin to get this digital image or this digital footprint of your social network inside of your company. And with it comes all of these actionable insights that give you a sense for how's overall sentiment, how's sentiment on this specific topic, how's sentiment in this specific department, how healthy is the conversation. So we've built AI that's incredibly accurate because we've had years and multiple iterations to get this really, really precise, that, for example, distinguish between the sentiment of a conversation and the health of the conversation. A lot of thinking in this space is dominated by just looking for sentiment, negative sentiment versus positive sentiment. That's not particularly insightful. I can say something like, this project is awful. That's negative sentiment. It's not unhealthy. It may be inherently true that the project is awful. It may be badly run, whatever it may be. But if I say this project is awful and my manager is a star, 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 that's toxic. And that's very different. And the signal that comes from that is different, right? And if you see toxicity emerging around a topic, right, that's another source of insight for you versus just the sentiment. So we had an example from a customer that happens to be has a big frontline workforce, and they changed the policy around employee parking. And they immediately saw a flare of negative sentiment about the topic of the parking policy. And they shared this story with us, and it really gave a clear illustration of the value and the difference between those two. And they said, shame on us. This was the people who kind of managed the listening, right? They said, shame on us. We didn't raise that as an action item, and we didn't respond to the employees' concerns about the change in policy. So a week later, there's this big flare of toxicity. And the flare of toxicity was no longer about the parking. The flare of toxicity is they're not even listening to us. That's a different problem, right? So hopefully that illustrates the difference between those two things.